Hey folks, today's episode of WTF is brought to you by Real Time with Bill Maher. Bill and his rotating panel of guest stars return for the 13th season of Real Time this Friday, January 9th at 10 p.m., 9 p.m. Central, only on HBO. Dig that. We're also sponsored today by Xero. That's Xero. Xero, the online accounting software and platform for your small business. Manage your business anytime, anywhere, from your Mac, PC, iPhone, iPad, or Android device. Process mobile payments, handle payroll, run your back office, and much more, folks. Sign up for a free 30-day trial at Xero.com/podcasts. That's Xero.com/podcasts. And Xero randomly selects 5 people a month who have signed up to receive a mystery box of goodies. Who doesn't like that? Xero, beautiful accounting software. All right, let's do the show.
Lock the gate!
All right, let's do this. How are you, what the fuckers, what the fuck buddies, what the fucking ears, what the fuck nicks? What the fuckadelics? I am Marc Maron. This is WTF. Welcome. It's time to get back to work today. I hope you're rested. You didn't annihilate yourself like a child on New Year's. You 40 to 50-year-old people who might be still trying to bounce back here on January 5th from the mistakes you made on the eve of the 1st. Perhaps not mistakes, but man, it doesn't get any easier, does it? Does not get any fucking easier. Today it's a pretty fucking big day, people. Today on the show, I'm going to talk to Paul Thomas Anderson, the director of many a great film. His current film, Inherent Vice, is playing in theaters, and it expands even more theaters across this large country of ours on Friday. I saw Inherent Vice, and then I got a screener of it because I'm a member of several guilds that votes for awards. Get a lot of screeners, so I'm happy I had the opportunity to watch it again, and I will watch it again and again. Not unlike any of Paul Thomas Anderson's movies, I need to watch him at least 3 times just to get it in my head, this expanse of his vision. I get angry at his movies sometimes because I watch them and I'm like, fuck, now I'm going to have to see that again almost immediately, and then probably another time after that before I can even get into the groove to process the vision here. Very provocative stuff. He's a rare artist. It's a rare artist that when you return to his work or her work, a true act of genius in my mind, I may have said this on the show before, a true work of genius is something that you can return to and continues to evolve in meaning for you, which is, that's relative to you anyway, so it's not like it's going to be a general thing. But if you can return to an artist's work and get a different thing or more thing or a whole new thing out of it every time you approach it over the years, that qualifies as a work of genius in my mind. And Paul Thomas Anderson has made several. And I'll talk to him about that. I'll talk to him about the current film. I'll go through all the films. We know the films: Boogie Nights, Heart 8, Magnolia, Punch Drunk Love. I'm just going off the top of my head here. There Will Be Blood, The Master, this new one, Inherent Vice. It was interesting talking to him about Pynchon because I've been doing a little purging myself today in the last few days. I finally, after writing a script, and by the way, can I just say thank you for all the feedback on the second season of Maron, which is up on Netflix now. The number of people that watch it on Netflix is mind-blowing, and it's very exciting for me to see all this feedback coming from the season. Very sort of supportive, reassuring feedback. People are enjoying the show. We didn't get much of that. And I think that's the beauty of Netflix, that people are coming to the show. The first season as well, I'm getting some of those tweets where people are like, how come I never knew who you were about, ever, in any way? I'm glad I'm still a discoverable entity. Obviously I am. But seriously, I'm glad you're enjoying the show. And if you haven't watched it yet, it is on Netflix. It's so fucking encouraging and humbling and exciting that people are enjoying the show so much. We're deep in work on the next season. We're writing. I just finished my script, I'm coming back around to what I was getting into. The script I wrote this season, solo wrote, without, we'll get it up on the lift and we'll go over it. But it was about, I don't want to give away much, but it does involve an ex-wife and about stuff that I have in my house. I have just tons of stuff from all different times of my life. Some of them, stuff from marriages. I'm still using plates. I'm still using the Fiesta ware that I got at my first marriage, but I don't think about it. I don't think I think about it. I think I'm just lazy. But it's like, that's fucking ridiculous. I've got a few bucks. I mean, get rid of this shit. To me, it doesn't mean anything, but I think I'm lying to myself with that. I think I have a lot of artifacts of different periods of my life, with women included, and artifacts of those relationships that keep me comfortable or keep me sort of unconsciously reminded of my loss or my grief or the pain of the absence. And then I started going through T-shirts and my clothes, and I just started getting rid of shit. I'm not going to sell anything on eBay. I'm going to Goodwill with it. You have to make the commitment to let it go. It's like, these are dead items. I mean, I don't know why I negotiate with objects like I'm some sort of fucking hoarder. And then there's a stack of T-shirts that I keep because the places they represent, either in my life or in reality, no longer exist anymore. There are T-shirts that I had to wear at certain points of time. I had to wear them for safety. Certain T-shirts that involved an artist of some kind. Like I went on Twitter to find this artist that did this series of T-shirts that I had to wear. This guy named Michael Roman in San Francisco, a street artist that did a series of shirts with skeletons on them, sort of Day of the Dead oriented. And there was a period where I had to wear these T-shirts in my mind for protection. They were symbolic somehow. I was a little nuttier then. These are magical objects. Things have symbols. Things lead you places. And it's very weird about truth and about Thomas Pynchon and about, in talking to Paul Thomas Anderson, we talk extensively about Pynchon. My primary experience with Pynchon in terms of how he changed my life was with The Crying of Lot 49, which is a sort of historical conspiracy theory that persists through symbols and esoteric communities. And when I first read that, it was like, oh my God, this is real. This is the truth. This is how life works. And I think there is an element that is cryptic about life, obviously. But in terms of those kind of truths, pursuing the big truth, connecting the dots, I had to let some of that go because I had to look at the internal truth, in terms of like some of the movies he's done, like The Master or Boogie Nights, and about people who are either in conflict or easily led or looking for something or looking for power. These themes, sort of all come together, a lot of it in Inherent Vice, in a very comedic, very lyrical. It's almost like a movie collage of a time, and you have to follow the signs. Follow the signs. But my point being is that, your personal truth, you better get that shit straight before you look for the bigger truths, because if you don't know who you are or where you sit inside, you're going to be taken for a fucking ride, man. That ride is fine, but if it's a big mystery to you, you better get your shit straight, get your vessel in order, learn how to fucking drive it, so at least you have some control when the ride starts, when you're stuck in it and you can't get out. Make sure your vessel is intact and you know who's in control of it, or you're going to get fucked. I think that's what Pynchon was trying to say. Look, we're sponsored today by the best reviewed film of 2014. Boyhood is available on Blu-ray Combo Pack Tuesday, January 6th. And if you haven't seen it, do yourself a favor and get it so you can watch it before Thursday. Why before Thursday? Because on Thursday, my guest is Boyhood's writer and director, Richard Linklater. How about that? Yeah, true. Director's Week. Boyhood follows the same actors over 12 years to tell a groundbreaking coming-of-age story like none other in film history. I thought it was an amazing movie. It's not that the story is even that elaborate. It's just the fact that these characters and these actors aged over 12 years. It's a very interesting feeling you get knowing that coming out of the theater and being part of it. It stars Patricia Arquette and Ethan Hawke in their Golden Globe-nominated roles. Boyhood is also nominated for Best Picture, Drama, and Best Director. Own the Blu-ray on January 6th or buy it now on digital HD. Boyhood from Paramount Pictures, rated R. So, this is a long interview. Let's go talk to Paul Thomas Anderson. He was very gracious and great to talk to. I didn't know what to expect. I decided he was like a looming, perhaps tormented, brooding guy, but he was fucking great to talk to. Okay, let's do this. Let's enough. All right? I hope you're all right. I'm okay. Let's talk to Paul Thomas Anderson. New Year's resolutions can be pretty cheap sometimes. It's easy to say something on January 1st, but it's harder to follow through all year long. Am I right? Here's one that's easy to keep. Make a point to use Stamps.com this year, people. Stamps.com is the better way to get postage. Just use what you already have, your own computer and printer. That's how you get official U.S. postage for any letter or package. Then your mail carrier just picks it up at your house or your business. Stamps.com is only $15.99 a month. That's it. No long-term, multi-year commitments like those postage meters require. No markups on postage. In fact, you'll even get special postage discounts with Stamps.com. So it's really a no-brainer, my friends. I don't need to make a resolution to use Stamps.com because I've been using it for more than 4 years. Right here in the garage. So now's your chance to get a fresh start. Start a no-risk trial, plus get a $110 bonus offer that includes a digital scale and up to $55 of free postage. Don't wait. Go to Stamps.com, and before you do anything else, click on the microphone at the top of the homepage and type in WTF. That's Stamps.com. Type in WTF. And then I tried to stop, and I couldn't stop, and I did the patches, and I found the lozenge, and I was like, this is the best thing ever. I can just eat my nicotine. I can get the buzz. I have maximum control over it. I'm not inhaling hot smoke. I can do it in bed.
Uh-huh.
I would wake up with lozenges in my mouth, Paul.
But do you feel like a quitter?
What? To get off them?
Yeah.
Here's the weird thing. I don't know if you've ever, how long you've been smoking? How long?
Well, I was 18.
Right, so that's right. We start when we're kids.
Yeah.
I started when I was like 14 or 15. Whatever it's holding back, it's all in there. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. I mean, obviously, your creative output is not stifled, and certainly it does, keep your brain busy. But emotionally, it's a little overwhelming to remove the tamper. It just tamps shit down.
Yeah.
So I don't feel like a quitter. I'm a little scared of what's going to happen.
Do you exercise?
I did today.
What'd you do?
I go on and off.
Here to there.
No, I ran the hills around here.
Right.
I run. Do you exercise?
I run. I do yoga.
You do yoga?
Yeah, because I smoke. Yeah, I got it.
But I mean, don't you have that moment where how much can you run, really?
You're right. There is that moment when you realize, if I really want to get better at this or keep going.
Yeah. I got to stop. Well, how much do you smoke?
Not much.
Uh-huh.
I mean, not like I used to. I used to smoke, a pack a day.
Oh, you're not even not doing a pack?
No. Oh.
I
mean, if things are hectic or you're on set or things are really stressful.
When you're making a movie?
Yeah.
Pack and a half, 2 packs a day.
If you're around Joaquin Phoenix,
yeah,
that's like smoking a pack a day. He smokes like a lunatic.
Does he?
Oh, God.
What brand?
American Spirits, yellow.
What do you smoke?
Same.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, man. See, they weren't even around when I smoked. Isn't that crazy?
Well, the whole thing that they put out there was like, we're an all-natural.
Sure, man. It's healthy.
Exactly.
Health food cigarettes.
Yeah. And the Indians are getting the money, so don't worry about it. It's really...
Are they even getting the money?
No, they're owned by R.J. Reynolds.
Right. It's a fucking scam. Fell for it again. But
anything to help justify,
It's great. Smoking is great. And in the new movie, Inherent Vice, everyone's just smoking.
Yeah.
Enjoying their outfits.
Yeah.
And smoking cigarettes. Everyone's unshaven. It's fucking beautiful.
Did you see it?
I did see it.
Good.
I went and saw it the other night, but we're not going to start there.
Okay.
Can't start there. I mean, I could. But, so you're living out in the valley. You grew up here?
I grew up in Studio City.
Your whole life?
Yeah.
Los Angeles, California.
Yeah.
Born here.
Is that shocking?
To me, it's a mythical place, Los Angeles, California. When people were born here and they have their whole life here, if they're not celebrities of some kind, I'm like, how does that happen?
Right.
There's some weird, magical, dark place to me. You grew up in a magical, dark place.
It is a magical, dark place. It is.
And you felt that early on?
I didn't know any different. I mean, I'm starting to realize it now, living other places and coming back. But I think there are darker, more magical places within this very large city. Like Los Feliz is very dark and magical.
In what way is it dark to you?
Only in that I lived there for about a year, and the feeling of ghosts was kind of strong. And not that I ever saw one, not that I ever touched one, but just some little echo kind of around that made me feel, being from the Valley, being from Studio City, like this feels like another world. So I just kind of split.
Like, I can't imagine growing up here, but I was sort of obsessed with, the black and white nature of Hollywood. Like, if you look at stills of old Hollywood movie stars, you read Kenneth Anger's book, and your entire brain gets saturated with this sort of like, what is going on here?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's kind of like if Poltergeist had been made, they should have showed that to the city planners and said, just make sure you don't build shit where shit shouldn't be built.
Right. Right. Yeah.
Yeah, I know. Because it does feel a lot of times that there are buildings and places to live out here where really you shouldn't be. Like whether they're ancient Indian burial grounds or just sort of epicenters of energy where really, we should stay away from them. And the Comedy Store on Sunset is probably one of them.
Yeah, definitely is. It's like Burroughs said, the evil was there before anything was built.
Right.
Do you believe?
Yeah, I sure do. I mean, I'm sure that those Indians were sort of walking down Sunset Boulevard and said, just let's make a left. Just stay away from this one little pocket here. Where...
I've often said that it's built over one of the few existing gates to hell.
Uh-huh.
And the evil just comes up through the floorboards, and those who are talented are able to make it funny.
Well, there's kind of a gravitational pull towards that area, right? I mean, obviously, for a breed of person.
Well, what about that fucking Sunset Towers, the hotel?
That's sort of notoriously...
What is that?
I don't know.
Have you seen the mural on that place? Have you looked at it? With the blimp and the airplanes, that weird...
that new mural that they have.
It's not even new. It's right over where you enter. There's some sort of like fresco thing that's been there forever. And I'm like, what is that about? There's a Zeppelin in there, and there's planes, and there's an altar on the top. I was very hung up with that shit.
That hotel's been curious for a while. I mean, that was abandoned and empty. Remember that?
It was gutted when I was...
Yeah.
And it was just stood there, this monolith of weirdness. I thought it was like a nest for ghosts.
And now it's like, hip central. I mean, I've never been in one of those rooms, I imagine.
Swept there. The night I swept there was the night of that big earthquake, the Northridge earthquake.
No shit.
In like 90, what was that, 92, 93?
You were up.
I was up.
Oh, God.
Dude, I can't even...
There's no end of material when it comes to this town. I mean, there's no end of material, really. I mean, it's endlessly fascinating.
But there's something about, like, especially, well, let's go back to where you come from, but like in Boogie Nights and in Magnolia, you tapped into this energy here. Mm-hmm. Don't you feel?
Sure, I do, yeah. Particularly of the Valley.
Yeah.
Which
is where you grew up.
Which is where I grew up, so I can hold it in my hand, and I do feel like I could speak about it with some authority without feeling like an imposter. I mean, to talk about Greater Los Angeles and try and dive into what really is going on here, it's too big a subject to wrap my mind around. But with Boogie Nights, when I remember making that, it was like, I'm really making a movie about the neighborhood that I grew up in,
Yeah.
It was not that far from what I knew. It was what I knew.
Well, did you have siblings?
Many, yeah.
You do?
Yeah.
How many?
Well, my mom and my dad had 4 kids, me and my 3 sisters, and then my dad had a first marriage where we had 5 kids.
Really?
So he had 9 kids total.
Do you know those other ones?
Yeah.
You're all cool?
Yeah. I'm number 7 of 9.
Did you grow up with the other ones?
In and out. They were older by the time my mom came on the scene and had us. They were, which was great for me. They were kind of like of age. They had cars. We could take us into R-rated movies.
So you could learn things.
Yeah.
You need those. There's people I talk to, creative people, that they were blessed with the older siblings.
Yeah.
Who are like, here are my records. Here are the magazines and books you should look at. Yeah. And this is what we're going to watch.
It's absolutely true. Were you the oldest?
I was the oldest. I had to go out to record stores and make friends with people who worked at bookstores to get my information.
Yeah, that's was.
It was harder for me.
Yeah, I don't know that I would have had the guts to do that without a little bit of help from my older brothers. And they were dirty. They were into like rock bands, and they had rock bands and fast cars and stuff.
And here in L.A., they were in L.A. too?
Yeah, yeah.
Really?
Well, they came from back east. They were born. They lived in Cleveland and then kind of made their way out.
That's where your old man's from?
The old man is technically from Boston, and then spent a lot of time in Cleveland, and that's where he met my mom. Yeah.
He was notorious in Cleveland.
Yes.
I didn't realize this.
Were you aware of him at all?
Not until I stumbled upon some research that I didn't mean to do. Mm-hmm. I wanted it all to be organic. But someone had said that your dad was in show business, but I had no idea that, he was sort of like this nerd myth. Like they're sort of like, what do you call it? Kind of a Mondo Video kind of dude.
It was a big time thing, and it was funny because I was talking about the Chrissie Hynde thing.
Yeah.
She was from Akron.
Right.
So people even from Akron, like a lot of those cool bands and stuff,
yeah,
were deep into this thing that my dad was doing on Friday nights, which is hosting horror movies, which is a common thing. Every town's got a local guy.
Right.
But my dad just seemed to do it in a way that was... He presented these scary movies, but also let you know how shitty they were at the same time.
So it was tongue-in-cheek, and he kind of played on the campiness of it.
Absolutely.
Right.
And, yeah, you see them now, and they seem a bit tame, but I think they were kind of mind-blowing when they were happening.
But didn't he have a shtick?
Oh, yeah, his shtick with the goatee.
Yeah.
Glasses with one lens missing.
Yeah.
And he would kind of talk like kind of like a Transylvanian accent.
Yeah.
And he would just say the most bizarre things. It was really about the message he would send is don't rat on your friends, don't be a purple kniff, and kniff was fink backwards.
Right.
So don't be a fink. Oxnard was a word that he would just randomly say because he thought it was funny, and I guess this just had people howling, thinking how groovy.
And he went under the moniker of
Ghoulardi.
Ghoulardi.
Yeah.
And this was just something he put together. He was basically, what was he, a local TV guy?
He was a local TV announcer.
Right.
He was the booth announcer.
Right.
And then when these local stations would buy these package of horror films, they needed somebody to go on and introduce them. And he said, I'll do that. But he didn't take it seriously or really try to scare anybody. He just kind of took it as an opportunity to completely fuck off and light firecrackers and blow stuff up and be...
On TV.
On TV, yeah.
So it was like the soupy sales approach.
What's the soupy sales approach?
Well, just sort of like you're kind of doing something for kids, but you're kind of pushing the envelope a little bit.
Right.
It's like, this isn't for kids.
Right.
What does it mean, don't be a rat?
It's true. I mean, I got a bunch of kids running around my house, and I have to remind them, they come, oh, so-and-so stole my thing. Don't be a rat. Don't rat your friend. Don't rat on your brother and sister.
Do you say that?
Yeah, absolutely.
How many kids you got?
4.
Is that just something you did because you grew up like that?
Probably. I mean...
You're married to Maya Rudolph?
That's right,
uh-huh.
Yeah. It's nice to have a lot of kids running around the house.
Really makes you feel good, right?
Yeah, it's like having a warm fire. And every once in a while, it's like throwing a bag of cats into a warm fire.
Sure.
I mean, it could be a nightmare, but it's the best.
So your old man, Ghoulardi, he did this number. There's not much film of him around.
Little clips you can find on YouTube. You got to understand, he was also partners with Tim Conway.
Really?
Yeah, they both started
in Cleveland?
In Cleveland.
Tim Conway's funny.
Tim Conway's really funny. And they were kind of a duo where my dad was the straight man, and they would do local comedy bits on television. The way that it was told to me is that Steve Allen came through town and saw how funny Tim was and said, why don't you come out to Hollywood and leave that guy here, leave that guy behind. So, my dad needed something to do, so he did Ghoulardi. And then I think he said to my dad, you got to get out here. I mean,
Tim did.
Yeah, Tim said, you got to get out here. There's work everywhere. And my dad came out, and there was just no work to be found at all for him.
Did him and Tim stay friends?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Really?
I grew up with him and all his kids, yeah.
With Conway?
Oh, yeah.
Is he still all right?
Yeah, he's doing great.
Oh, good.
Those guys, that was an amazing thing to grow up around those guys.
Well, did you grow up around Carol Burnett? In that?
She came around a little bit because my dad was the
house?
booth announcer at the Carol Burnett show.
He was?
Yeah, that was the job they threw him as a bone because he couldn't get work as an actor.
That was his first gig in Hollywood.
I think so, yeah.
Is the booth announcer at the Carol Burnett show. So
Yeah.
you're watching, you could theoretically. How old were you?
6.
Harvey Korman. Lyle Wagner.
Yeah.
Vicki Lawrence, Carol Burnett, Tim Conway.
Right.
That was the crew.
Yeah. And Harvey and Tim were around more than anybody.
At your house?
Yeah, we would see them. Yeah.
Those are the ones.
And
if you want to have people hanging around.
The best. And there was a guy named Joe Hamilton that was married to Carol Burnett, and he was the producer of the show. I mean, the coolest guy you've ever seen in your life. The most handsome. He had, like, just blasted by the sun and this white hair and these V-neck Gucci sweaters and the Gucci loafers. And I just thought, that is the coolest guy I've ever seen in my life. I want that job.
That's the
What's
guy?
he doing? Yeah.
So you were, like, in it. You were in show business.
Yeah, it was around.
But that was the industry your father worked in.
Yeah.
So you were, these are TV business.
But you know what? It was the best of all worlds, because it wasn't the kind of the show side of it. It was actually situations a lot like this. Because he was an announcer, I was always in the back booths and in the control room and that kind of stuff, and seeing that part of it.
Right.
Which still to this day, I'm leaving here and going to another dark control room.
Are you? What do you got to do?
Just to finish off the DVD and stuff like that. But every time I get in those rooms, I go, man, I love it. I love this environment. I love this world.
It's very private and it's very interesting. And it's what's interesting about what I do is getting used to just hearing your voice. And it's that's all you do. I'm talking and I'm comfortable hearing my voice in my head.
Right.
And so your dad was a funny guy.
Yeah.
And did you get along with him the whole way through?
Yeah, pretty much. I can't look back and say there was ever a stretch where it was like any kind of father-son.
And what about your mom? What does she do?
She's good. She was an actress, and she tried to sort of put it around, did commercials and stuff. But I turned to my mom the other day. She was over, and I was trying to get these 4 kids out of the house. Yeah. And I just got down on my knees, and I said, I'm so sorry for every single thing I ever did to you, And she said, well, you're welcome. Yeah, because it's a full-time job.
I know. I guess I'm yet to apologize to my mother.
Oh, man, I have to tell you, it made me feel good.
Was it genuine at that moment?
It really was.
You needed to be done.
It was the most I could muster.
But it struck you at that moment.
It did.
That's interesting. And how long ago did your dad pass?
97.
Yeah.
Yeah. But he was older, I lost him too soon, but he was older. He was born in 23.
Yeah.
So he was, it's nuts to me how old he was when he was still having kids.
So he sounded like he was a pretty funny guy.
He was a very funny guy. One night, I'll tell you a story. Tim Conway, this is a perfect example of the kind of environment that, like, Tim was over with my dad, and they were just getting absolutely hammered. And Polaroid cameras had just kind of come into fashion, and they were sort of accessible. And so they took a picture. Tim wrapped his head in toilet paper. And with so he looked like the mummy. You could barely see out of it.
Yeah.
And they took a Polaroid of Tim.
Right.
Then they cut the Polaroid up, and they put it on Tim's driver's license.
Yeah.
And they said, let's go drive down the street and try and get pulled over. So they fucking went, hammered, absolutely hammered, driving down Ventura Boulevard.
It's just 2 grown men.
2 grown men, only to get pulled over so they could play the joke, so that when the cop said license, and by the way, Tim is driving the car with the toilet paper on his head, so that when the cop says license and registration, he can hand over his license and
just so they could get a laugh.
Just so they could get a laugh. It was that level
Did they
of
do
insanity.
It?
Yes, they did it. Tim still has the driver's license.
He does?
Yes.
Oh, that's beautiful.
It was really just making each other laugh and messing around with no audience except the cop, if they got lucky to get pulled over. That's how crazy they were.
So when you have characters, like the Jason Robards character in Magnolia, was that in any way, do you work through any that's dynamic with your father?
Yeah, a lot of it wasn't even, I don't know if it's working through it, or it was just sort of just regurgitating a certain pain that happened after losing him.
Did he die of cancer?
He did, yeah. Very similar to Jason Robards in the movie. And I didn't even know what I had to work through. I just sort of wrote it out pretty close to as it happened. There's a lot of words in Jason's mouth that never came out of my dad's mouth, but that's how that's writing a movie.
Right.
But yeah, it's kind of
he wasn't well either at that time, was he, Jason?
He wasn't. No, it was his last movie, and he had gone through his own fight with a couple different cancers, And by the time he came to us, it was amazing. He said, I got to bring my oxygen tank, you know. I said, no problem. But he had one scene that was like 4 pages of dialogue, 4 straight pages of dialogue. And he just nailed it. I mean, to be mid-70s, late 70s, sick, dying of cancer, and to sort of rattle off 5 pages of dialogue, I mean...
Heavy, man.
Very heavy.
Hell of a presence, that guy.
Yeah. And he was a charmed man, and boy, he would tell us stories, and he was a great guy. Really great.
So, when did you start making the movies? Like, when did it hit you? I mean, like, when you were in high school and shit, where'd you go to high school? Out in the valley?
Yeah, out in the valley.
What kind of car did you have?
I didn't have a car. I mean, I had the family. We had a family wagon that I totaled, and my dad said, "That's it. Well, good job on that." So I just always hitched rides with people. Eventually, when I got out of high school, I had a Pontiac Sabre, Le Sabre, I think it was called. But I always made movies. I mean, from the second I realized what it was and I could do it, and there was a camera. My older brother had an 8mm camera, but when video cameras came around, whenever that was. 80?
Yeah.
79, 80?
Right.
And there was one, and you realized you could do that? Forget it. I mean, it was just all
You were a kid
did.
then, because I graduated in 81, and I'm 51. You're what, 40?
44.
All right. So you're definitely...
So I was 10, I was 11.
Right.
And
when you could do that, when your dad probably came home with one.
My dad came home with one, and it was like, there was nobody else that was going to hold that camera but me in the house. It was like, that's mine. I want that, you know?
Yeah.
And I just, from there.
And... what drove you to make movies? I mean, I know that like people like Spielberg and people always have that experience of like, you know, making the stop action shit and doing the Super 8 stuff and experimenting with the idea. But it seems that you were absorbing something at some point because all of your movies have very specific tones. So, you know, when did you start understanding it on a sophisticated level? Or were you just doing it as a goof?
I was just doing it as a goof. I mean, but you mentioned the Spielberg and all those guys. Those are the guys that were making movies like you sort of discover as a kid. I was 5, 6, 7 years old, seeing Jaws, seeing Star Wars, seeing all that stuff. That like blows your mind. And then, I guess when you sort of graduate out of that a little bit, you know, the first time I saw Raging Bull, or first time I was sort of exposed to Jonathan Demme's movies or Robert Downey Sr., people like that, and then you saw Altman, and then everything started to kind of it started to get really, it got more interesting. It felt more like that kind. It felt like, I don't know, but if I were ever to do it, maybe it would look like that. That was kind of the feeling.
Those things had they seemed grittier, more real, challenging.
It just spoke to me.
Right, right, like weird, raw. Right?
Yeah.
Robert Downey Sr. movies, they're like, what's going on here?
Yeah.
So Putney Swope?
Putney Swope was the first one I saw, and that changed my life entirely.
Same with Louis.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I think I came to it the same way that he did, is that you're just sort of like, it was going into the video store the same way somebody might go into a record shop and just devouring whatever you could find and looking for that thing, like, where's that thing that's gonna open my mind, and getting lucky enough to come across that video box with this great poster, and putting it in and saying, this is it. It's like I've been searching for something that I didn't even know what I was after.
What was it about that film that made you go like, holy shit? You can do this? What was
that? Holy shit, you can do this. You can talk like this. You can be this funny. You can be this. You can insult everyone. You can be political. I mean, it was that it was funny first. It was like it was politically charged. It was intelligent. It had something to say. And it was experimental, but that was all secondary because it was funny first. And that was what was cool about it.
You know what's trippy is that this movie, Inherent Vice, is really the closest you've come to Putney Swope.
Yeah. Tried. I said that to Bob. I said, I was just trying to do what you would do. He said, I wouldn't have done it like that.
You talked to him about Inherent Vice?
Yeah, I did.
But I mean, like all the things you just listed off. I mean, if I look at your other films, I mean, they're in there. I mean, you know, on some layer. But because of the way Pynchon writes and because of the time that is being depicted there, everything is loaded on all levels with all of that.
Yeah.
You know, who's in charge? What's the power structure? You know, where the drugs at?
I think it's something with these guys. I think Pynchon and Downey Sr. are probably about the same age. So guys, and they're both from New York too. So I don't know what they were really into. I can think it was Lenny Bruce, probably.
Right.
You know, who else might have been really influencing them? Spike Jonze, I know, was a big influence on Pynchon. He's talked about that. But there's something in the water with these guys and how they kind of could look at the world in such a kind of compassionate but upside down. Like, they didn't give a fuck, but they gave a fuck.
Well, the weird thing is that you got to figure that was the turning of the, like, after, you know, Eisenhower and then after the Vietnam War, shit just turned upside down. I mean, you know, they come through the Beatniks and Lord Buckley and Lenny Bruce, and then all of a sudden, like, fucking, you know, everything's unleashed.
Right.
And those guys grew up leashed.
It's funny you mentioned Eisenhower because I saw this interview with Downey Sr. the other day from the first Toronto Film Festival. So this must have been, he was there with a film called Chafed Elbows. This must have been 66, whatever. Mm-hmm. And he said, Eisenhower's the best president we ever had because he didn't do anything. Yeah. I want a guy who does nothing. I want a president that goes, plays golf, and doesn't do anything. And he's talking about Nixon. He says, we've got a real problem coming because this guy doesn't have a sense of humor.
Right.
And he was dead serious as he's talking about it, and it really hit me like, yeah, things were peculiar. I mean, it must have been really horrifying to get a president of the United States who has zero sense of humor.
But I also think, you know, at that time after the war and once when Ellsberg put out the Pentagon Papers
Sure.
and stuff was being revealed,
yeah,
that, you know, because you're making a movie by a guy who sort of invented hippie conspiracy literature.
Yeah.
And, you know, and created the idea that there's multiple levels of power and there are secret societies and you're never going to get to the bottom of it and it's almost like a futile search.
Right.
But that's the journey.
Yeah.
And their entire reality was shattered.
Yeah.
And it's like, how could they believe anything?
Yeah. No, it's true. I mean, it's nice to understand that now because unfortunately when I was growing up, I don't know if you, sometimes the parents of friends of mine would be just sort of like, oh, the 60s, man. And it kind of became like this vague
joke.
Annoyance, like, what are they going on about?
Right.
And maybe they were talking about something else and they weren't clear-headed about it. But when you put it in the terms that you just did, it really must have felt like a nuclear bomb dropped on all
on culture.
Yeah.
And then like the people that were able to sort of deal with it were like, all right, brave new world.
Right.
Let's go.
Right.
When's the party start?
Right.
So you didn't go to school for movies?
No, not really. I mean, I say not really in that I went to, I didn't go.
You didn't go to college?
I did go to college for a second. I went to Santa Monica City College for a second, and I went to Emerson College for a year.
In Boston?
Yeah.
Really? What year? Did you know any of my friends? Did you make friends there?
Not really.
A lot of cats went there. Dave Cross went there.
I didn't know David Cross.
Dennis Leary went there.
Dennis Leary was before me.
Steve Brill.
Are you from Boston?
No, I went to college in Boston. I lived there for a long time.
Where did you go to college?
Went to Boston University.
Right.
I did 5 years undergrad at Boston University. Did a year at Curry College out in Milton. Did my time. I lived there. Then I went back and started my comedy career there. I've been in and out of Boston a long time.
I love Boston.
All right, so you dropped out of college. Is that what happened? Or you just didn't go back?
I just didn't go back.
You didn't. It didn't stick in your head that was something you needed. That's interesting.
But you know, I mean, in that arrogant way, I felt like what do I need this for, man? I'm like a card carrying professional already. I've been doing this since I was 10.
Yeah,
you know?
I got a camera.
I've got a camera, and I think it just felt like a drag. It didn't really, and I would have to say that probably just because I didn't find a teacher that kind of spoke to me. The funny thing is when I was at Emerson for that year, David Foster Wallace, who was a great writer, who was not known then, was my teacher. He was an English teacher. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Is that what you were studying?
Yeah. And it was the first teacher I fell in love with. And I never found anybody else like that at any of the schools that I'd been to, which makes me really reticent to talk shit about schools or anything else because it's just like any place. Like, if you could find a good teacher, man, I mean, I'm sure school would be great.
So why didn't you stay?
He left.
So you were there with him for a year?
Yeah.
And were you spent a lot of time with him?
You know, I didn't stay. And in that classic move, I thought, oh, you know, I want to get to New York. That's where I'm supposed to go. I'm supposed to go to NYU, you know, because it had this good rep and all that.
The film school or
the film school?
Yeah.
And dummy that I am, I did it, and I got there, and I thought, oh, I don't want to be here. I wish I was back in Boston, you know, taking English classes.
Great place to go to school, Boston.
Yeah.
Did you spend a lot of time with David Foster Wallace?
No, just in class.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
You weren't one of those guys that after class you're like, hey, can I talk to you?
No, I called him once he was very generous with his phone number. He said, call me if you got any questions.
Right.
I called him a couple times.
Yeah, what'd you say?
I ran a few ideas by him about this paper that I was writing. I was writing a paper on Don DeLillo's White Noise, and I'd come
Hail of bullets.
Yeah, and I'd come up with a couple crazy ideas, and I don't remember the conversation well, but I just remember him being real generous at midnight the night before it was due.
You know? You were freaking out, all jacked up.
Yeah, basically.
I'm almost done, man.
It was like I think I'd written a pretty good paper.
Right.
It was like cooking a pretty good dish, and at the last minute just panicking and thinking, I got to add some more shit on this on top of it.
Or you missed the point. Like, oh, that's what it's about.
Right. Ugh. Yeah. And there was no cut and paste back then either. If you typed it out, you were...
That book was a life changer for me, man.
Was it really?
A little bit.
I'd love to go back and read it again.
I would too, actually.
Yeah.
Did you read Gravity's Rainbow? You can be honest, man. No one's going to judge you here.
I still haven't gotten to Gravity's Rainbow.
No one has. And few people, and you ask the people who have done it, the people that are like, I got through it. It's like, and I got through it.
I mean, it's nice to have lying around the house. Makes you look.
You
smart,
started every once. What is it? A screaming comes across the sky.
Screaming comes across the sky. I mean, it's all down. It's got to be downhill from that. The best opening line of a book ever.
Yeah.
I need to try it again, and I think I could now. He's got a way of writing that makes you think he knows things that we don't know,
Exactly. Even in the exchanges that you were able, and it was no small task to make a movie script out of his writing, in terms of dialogue. Mm-hmm. But hearing it come out of actual people was sort of exciting because it does. There is that weird kind of like, are they going to get to what's being hidden is what it is. Mm-hmm. Like there's always something being unsaid or intentionally hidden or they're just not quite, don't quite have it yet.
Yeah.
Damn it, But let's go. Okay. So now what happened with Hard 8 that changed your life?
I was way too young to be given the keys to the car, I think.
How old were you?
23.
And what was the movie called originally?
Sydney.
And you wrote it because of why?
I wrote it because I had to, because it just came out.
Why that character?
Good question. I loved this actor named Philip Baker Hall. Still love him.
Yeah.
And
you use him a lot.
Yeah.
You used him a few times.
Yeah. And honestly, I can remember just starting to write one day, and a January torrential downpour. I was living with my dad up in Coldwater Canyon, and I just started writing, and that's what came out. And then went to make the movie.
But it wasn't based on anything?
Not really. Yeah, it was based on stuff. I'd been working in Reno. I'd spent some time up in Reno.
Yeah.
And I was coming off experiences there of watching old guys that seemed to live.
Where'd you see
casinos.
Baker Hall?
Secret Honor, Midnight Run, the long list of great character parts where he would come on and be the best, coolest looking thing in the
Secret
movie.
Honor, is that the Altman?
That's the Altman movie.
The Nixon movie.
Yeah.
Who did he even play Nixon?
He played Nixon. It's just him in a room.
That was him?
Yeah.
Why didn't I know that? That was astounding.
It's great.
And it's like not one that everyone knows.
Mm-mm. But he was always around, and he would be this. He looked like somebody who just stepped out of the 1940s, like one of those great character actors you see in those movies.
So you saw him as the character?
Absolutely. And I heard his voice as the character. And I was writing, and I kept thinking of, another actor who had just started out that I'd been seeing a lot, John C. Reilly.
Right.
Who'd been in like maybe 5 or 10 films at that point, but I just thought, my God, this guy's so good.
Yeah.
So I went and I made that movie and got through it somehow. I just bluffed my way through directing.
Well, you got to deal with who?
There's a company called Reicher Entertainment.
And you showed up with the script, or?
Yeah. You got to understand that at that time, probably based on the success of Pulp Fiction and a couple other small independent films, there was a lot of cash floating around from these cable companies.
Yeah.
So if you could make a movie for under $2 million, they could kind of sell it off piece by piece with just enough kind of genre elements and a couple cast names, and you could just go make your movie.
Right.
And I was bluffing my way through it, and I kind of I should have had a 90-minute movie, and I cut together this 2.5-hour thing, and I thought, I had to plant a firm stake, I'm not changing a frame of it. And they're like, I don't know about that. But really I'd only been working on it for 3 or 4 weeks, and I hadn't had time to
cut it properly.
And I was just bluffing, man. I mean, I was just completely making it up as I was going along. And
so what studio were you dealing with?
There was no studio. It was just this company, this little cable company that had some cash, and they were going to sell it to a distributor here.
So what happened with it, ultimately?
Ultimately, it came out in about 4 or 5 theaters.
But how did the cut happen? Why is it not called what you wanted it to be called?
It was a long, sad history of going through a rigmarole with this company, and eventually I won on the cut of the movie. Well, what had happened was actually they said, you can do what. At a certain point, it was just a war of attrition that they realized that this skinny, annoying kid is not going to leave us alone, because that really was just sitting outside their houses, going, "I want my movie."
They weren't going to release it.
They were going to release it. They were going to release another cut of it, and they finally said, they put it into my lap, and they said, "Look, if you can put together your version of the movie, you can have it." And that was a lot of dough that it was going to take to do that, but I just signed on to make Boogie Nights. So I took all that money and I said, okay, and I paid for it, and I did it, and then...
What do you mean? So
I had to finish the film. I had to really finish... We went through the process of making the movie.
Right.
We edited the movie. They saw it. They said, we don't like this. I said, I like it. I mean, I had whittled it down to 90 minutes.
Right.
And I said, we don't like it. We've got bigger and better ideas. And they changed the music. They changed the title. They changed pretty much all that you could change.
Yeah.
And I said, I can't live with myself. I think I'm going to jump off a bridge. And they said, too bad. And then we got lucky that it was a version of the film that I made and that was sent to the Cannes Film Festival, and they invited it over. So a couple good things started coming our way. And eventually, actually through their goodwill, they did say, fine, if you want to do this, you can do it, but we're not paying for it. So if you can come up with the cash to reconstruct your version, you can do it. So that's where I took the money from Boogie Nights. I paid to finish this film. And
why'd you change your name?
I didn't. That was that one moment where they said, we'll give you everything, but... And I just said, okay, if I win everything else, you get the name, and it's fine with me.
So it wasn't that huge of a mind fuck.
It was emotionally a huge mind, and emotional, and it was a fuck in every way. It was just like baptism by fire getting into Hollywood. It was crazy to go through that, and I didn't know how to deal with it. I was too young. I didn't know how to deal.
Well, what was the main thing you learned out of that experience? Was it a control thing?
Yeah, I suppose. I think I went into my next situation thinking that the lesson I learned was to be paranoid, be protective, and don't trust anyone. And fortunately, I got to work with a great studio and a guy named Mike DeLuca who was able to see what I'd gone through. He said, no, trust me and put your faith in me, and you can work with me. And
he was your producer?
Yeah.
On Boogie Nights?
Yeah, and he sort of paid for the film and made the film. And that really...
What studio?
New Line.
Uh-huh. Which
made a bunch of great films back in the 90s.
In your mind, so the idea for Boogie Nights came from where?
From pornography, from my life, from all that stuff.
Right, but it started out as a short piece?
It did, yeah.
Which was a comic piece?
Yeah, it was kind of like making like a fictional documentary, that Spinal Tap style, like about a...
How long was that?
Half hour.
Okay, so that was a Dirk Diggler character.
Yeah.
Who played it in the short?
This guy named Mike Stein, the only guy I knew that had long hair, and he wanted to be an actor. So.
But it was a goof.
Yeah, it was a fuck off. Yeah, for sure.
And so that evolves into Boogie Nights, which is not really a goof,
right? But
there's comedic elements.
Sure.
But you didn't shoot that one as a comedy.
Boogie Nights?
Yeah.
We were laughing a lot when we made it.
No, obviously.
But no, I mean, I think by then, things settled, and doing something about pornography got a little bit more well-rounded rather than just laughing at the goof of it all.
In your mind, what's that movie about?
Boogie Nights?
Yeah.
I don't even remember now, because I feel like I'm just regurgitating things that I've read about it over the years, that it's about family, surrogate family.
Yeah.
And I suppose that really is what it's about, and it's about filmmaking.
Yeah.
It's about the Valley. It's about family.
It's also about the there's a monumental moment that, the shift from film to video was a big fucking deal.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And that's where you brought in the heavy. That's where you brought in Hall to deliver the news.
That's right.
Right?
Yeah. I mean, these stories are good. An end of a certain kind of innocence. you know, that always sort of makes for a good thing. And I think that's what's going on there. It's singing in the rain, basically. It's like, you know, what happens when we got to start talking, you know? What happens when video comes in? Now, anybody can make a porno movie?
Yeah.
What the fuck? What, you know?
Now, how much porn did you grow up with outside of consuming it? I mean, did you know houses in the valley? Did you?
Yeah. There was one across the street from my grandmother's house. Honest to God. And I probably wouldn't have put two and two together if she hadn't been so indignant about it all, that she saw this van there all the time and the windows were blacked out.
Yeah.
And, you know, if you waited long enough, you would see some pretty suspicious-looking characters coming in and out of there.
Yeah.
And then I remember so well looking at the frame of the front window. There was a kind of a bay window in the front of the house. And any time I would watch a porno film, I'd be looking for that bay window. I'd be like, oh, where's that bay? I wonder if that's in that house.
Yeah.
I feel like I saw it a few times, but I don't know. It's a pretty standard bay window in a valley.
And then you also like dealt with some of the drugs and some of the John Holmes story.
Yeah, there was a great Rolling Stone article that I read.
That fucking thing was mind-blowing.
There was two things. That article was gigantic to me to help figure some things out. And also, do you remember a show called A Current Affair?
Yeah.
They did a piece on Shauna Grant, who was a porn star who had a really sort of tragic end, and she committed suicide. But those two things were really like the sort of bridge the gap between growing up around it, knowing what it was, having a feel for it, and really seeing a fuller story.
The Heart of Darkness.
Yeah.
But still, like, it's sort of upbeat. Like, Burt Reynolds really stayed steady for you on that one, didn't he?
Yeah. He did. Oh, man, Burt Reynolds.
Well, how was that?
Tough.
Yeah?
Really tough.
He was, like, huge when we were kids. Oh. Smokey and the Bandit?
Hooper?
Yeah.
I mean,
The Longest Yard? That was before.
Yeah.
Before us. But.
Yeah, The Longest Yard was a little bit before, but believe me, I saw that on TV, and it was all part of just
Game Ball.
Idolizing him, you know?
Great.
Hooper was a big one for me.
Yeah.
You know, when he would, just the beginning, when he just put on these pads as the stuntman, and yeah, I think there was again a big distance between that time and when we were working with him, and he was tough, but ultimately it was great and it was worth it.
Was he tough because he didn't trust you?
I think so. I think that's for sure. That's one element of it. I think that he had a lot of goodwill. I mean, we all came and we were all excited to work with him. And I think, to put myself in his shoes for a second, a lot of us were just starting out, you know. Maybe he'd seen Riley in a couple things, and there were a few people, but I think he felt pretty quickly, he sized it up and thought, I am slumming it, and I don't know how I got here.
Oh, yeah.
And it just wasn't feeling good to him.
That's funny, because they get to a certain age where they don't really keep up. Right. So, like, maybe he saw some of those people. You know what I mean? Right. Maybe he saw Riley. But, you know, he's down in Florida running his school.
Right.
But,
but you know what, too? I mean, I don't know. I mean, I can only guess here, but, you know, we didn't have any money, and you go from being the biggest movie star in the world, and you're in a trailer, and you've got to share the trailer with 3 different people. Maybe that's an element, but and then again, he was a team player to a certain point.
He really kind of, like, outdid himself in vulnerability-wise.
Yeah.
You know, and sort of being the Rock. What is it with you and Ricky Jay?
Oh, come on. You love Ricky Jay? Ricky Jay, actually funny, Burt Reynolds and Ricky Jay had the obligation when Mark and Burt are in this big fight scene out at the pool, and
yeah,
he's coming at Mark. He's saying, "Get out of here! You know you're high," and all this kind of stuff. And Ricky Jay had the job of holding Burt back, which is like not a job that Ricky should have. You know, Ricky has these magician's hands and everything else, and Burt started to improvise, and Mark says to something like, you know, I haven't been up for 2 days. He says, you don't look good. You've been up for 2 days. You've been doing blow, everything else. He says, I haven't been up for 2 days. And Burt said, nevertheless, you don't look good, and I'm not going to shoot you this way. And so every time Burt would say nevertheless, I kept noticing something happened over Ricky's face. I said, what's going on? And he said, I can't I'm almost gonna I'm suppressing laughter when he says nevertheless. And I said, why? And he told me this great story of being at a football game where this woman is being introduced to sing the national anthem, and her name is Helen Forrest or whatever it is, and they said, now to sing the national anthem, Helen Forrest, and somebody in the stand screams, Helen Forrest sucks cock.
Yeah.
And the announcer says, nevertheless. I thought, it's a long story to tell, but I swear, and every time I see, if the movie's on TV or I see it, you can see Ricky Jay when Bert says nevertheless, just like,
because of that trigger.
Right. So any time I hear the word nevertheless, I think I'm going to explode.
So what movies were informing you through that?
Through Boogie Nights?
Yeah.
Well, Goodfellas was a big thing, I mean, that was a kind of like way to look at, that kind of energy, that kind of cocaine energy,
sure.
But also too that kind of like a subculture, like a kind of like a tribe of people,
right.
And like and that
insulated
was insulated in their own little hierarchy, and here's the chief, and here's the side people,
and also they can only socialize with themselves because at that time, sex worker, you couldn't just be out having dinner parties. They weren't empowered yet.
Right.
It was a freak show.
Yeah. That was the biggest thing. I mean, Nashville, of course, and sort of the way that you have sort of multi-characters and sort of intersecting lives and all that kind of stuff, but
that's something kind of moves through. That Altman thing kind of moves through you in a couple movies.
Yeah, for sure.
In the newest one, a lot, right?
Yeah, the funny thing is, it was the first time I really tried to. I mean, I had to size up. I mean, there's some similarities to The Long Goodbye, but I just thought, I don't need to do another Altman movie.
I didn't quite feel that. I mean, I think The Long Goodbye is pretty sparse.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, this is
not sparse.
Altman. I mean, I think The Long Goodbye and Nashville, seeing them for the first time was probably one of the biggest holy fucking shit moments in my life. What the
really?
I look at this. Yeah, for sure. But with this one, I remember thinking, I've got to try to forget that this film exists, The Long Goodbye, because there's similarities. You just have got a detective thing and all that, but just put it to the side. Don't even think about it.
What about The Big Lebowski?
And that came into my mind instantly when I read the book. I was like, well, fuck me. Okay, there's a lot of parallels here.
Yeah.
Between what Pynchon has written and The Big Lebowski, which is an all-time classic for sure. And again, it was working through that and going, you just got to ignore it. And obviously I know it exists. I know every word of it, and I love it. But what's Pynchon on about here, and what's this thing?
I think you nailed that.
Yeah.
We're almost gonna get there. I'm not done with the other stuff. You in a hurry?
Not at all. I'm fine. As a matter of fact.
Have a cigarette.
All right.
Do you need water or anything?
I do. You
do?
Just a sip of water, or no? They've got this right here.
You want me to go get some?
I don't want you to leave.
I won't leave, man. I'm not going to leave you out here.
I like being here. This is just like it is in the Bob Dylan
the Bob
video.
Dylan video. That's your point of reference. All right, so now let's just do Magnolia. I'm going to do the same question again. In your mind, what is that movie about? Like, if you were to say one poetic line, give me a haiku.
My dad.
The whole thing.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I mean, I just lost my dad, and I wrote a movie. It was like that. I remember talking to an oncologist on the phone who was essentially telling me that there was no way my dad was going to make it. And one of the first things that popped into my mind was, you're telling me that frogs are falling from the sky. And I remember that kind of just popping into my mind because Michael Penn introduced me to the idea of Rain of Frogs, and so that had been rattling around. And
Rain of Frogs as in biblical?
Yeah, biblical or the non-biblical version of Rain of Frogs, which is just, sort of clippings of stories where sort of bizarre occurrences would happen where a farmer wakes up and there's a field of frogs and there's nowhere.
Oh, so that there's a folk tale of some kind.
Yeah.
There's precedent.
Yeah. I thought hearing that your dad is going to die is as bizarre as hearing that frogs are falling from the sky.
So it was about the death of your dad. Now, like obviously with the Robards character, and I'm going from memory, and I remember having this feeling about that movie. Like I've had struggles with your movies before, where I've had to sort of like repeatedly go see them. Because I felt like I'd walk out of your movie sometimes and I'm like, what does that guy want? What does he want from me? Now I got to go see that again.
Right.
You know, like, all right, this is the 5th time I'm going in to see this movie. I got to turn something off to let something in here.
Right.
So, is that? Do you take that as an insult?
No. Well, no. I think what it makes me think is of times where I've felt that way with filmmakers. I think, fuck this. I'm not coming back. You know, which is probably how I'd feel about my movies if I saw them. I'm not going back to this.
No, but I have to go back. I have to go back because they demand it. You make movies that, you know, even if they bother you at first, it's a lot to reckon with.
Right.
And, you know, in Magnolia at that time, you loaded that thing up.
Yeah.
That was an emotional, like, hurricane on all fucking levels.
Yeah. But, you know, that was like one of those moments in time where you just, I had enough vinegar and confidence, and I wasn't really editing myself, and this sort of open wound and all that stuff came out, and certainly I don't look back. I look back proudly at that, and
well, you should.
Yeah.
But if you were given the opportunity to do another cut of it,
I'd slice that thing down. I'd cut. It's way too fucking long.
Good.
Oh no, it's unmerciful how long it is.
No, I liked it though, and I liked the frogs. But it seemed like there was a whole story in there. If I'm remembering it properly, there was one trajectory that could have just been taken out.
Yeah, and maybe a few. Yeah, you won't get any. Yeah, I won't defend it.
Julianne Moore was genius.
Yep.
Like that felt like out of life. I mean, was that something you had to deal with? Was your father married to somebody else at that time?
Yeah, he was. He'd gotten married again late in his life, and it was a sort of tragic end for this woman, really sweet woman, but she just couldn't handle his sickness, and she sort of had a sickness of her own, and it all kind of tumbled forward very, very, in a pretty similar way to the way that it is in the movie, you know. I think when you're dealing with something like that, and thankfully I didn't.
Was she much younger?
Not much younger, but
right.
She was younger.
Mm-hmm.
But I think I just sort of, I was putting it all out there, not really even thinking twice,
loading it up.
Yeah.
And what was the Tom Cruise character to you?
That was just a great character. I mean, really, that was.
But what sparked that?
Heard about a guy named Ross Jeffries who did those things. And kind of got obsessed by him and just couldn't resist. When I was writing it out on the page and I would look at this thing that this guy was saying, yeah, it was just too good. It was like, well, I've got to do this somehow, you know.
Were you astounded that Tom said yes?
A little bit, you know. But I'd met him and he'd wanted to do something together, which was a vote of encouragement, you know, from him. And I was kind of in the middle of writing it, and then I just started to sort of tailor it, thinking if he wants to do this, then let's do it.
Before we go on, I forgot. Like, you know, like I can't look at Alfred Molina without thinking of that scene. Do you know you ruined that guy for everybody?
The firecracker?
Yeah. I mean, that scene is like one of the greatest scenes ever put on film.
Thank you.
That song. And that guy,
Sister Christian.
Yeah, it's over. You know, they're inseparable now.
Well, that is a scene that really is those firecrackers.
Where did that come from?
It's a steal from Bob Down. It's a steal from Putney Swope. It's a little bit of a steal from Putney Swope because he's got this character Wing Sony who shows up, who's got an assistant in the background who's just randomly throwing firecrackers in the hallway of their ad business. And I think the other thing was that my dad always had an obsession with firecrackers. He was blowing stuff up as Ghoulardi, and, you know, I thought it was a good idea, but man, when you get on the set for the first time and you're in a tiny little set like this, and that first firecracker goes off, and everybody jumps, and it's so fucking loud, that's when I thought, this might be pretty good.
Well, it's a comic scene.
Yeah.
Even when he starts, the weird thing is the guy he's based on, Eddie Nash, there's no way to make that guy funny.
Right.
You know, but somehow or another, between that little Japanese kid and Alfred Molina with his robe flying open and his half effeminate disposition was completely comedic.
Yeah.
But the true story of that guy was menacing, man.
Yeah, no, it went dark very fast. Read that Rolling Stone.
Oh my God!
Yeah,
it is weird. You made it. It is lighthearted, dude. It's still kind of uplifting.
Well,
but I found Shortcuts uplifting. I'm a freak. Like, I thought Shortcuts was like a celebration of life somehow.
Yeah. I have the same feeling. I mean, look, if you can get out with a low body count, it's uplifting, I suppose.
Did you watch when was the last time you watched Freebie and the Bean? Do you realize how many fucking people went down, like, in 70s comedies, like those weird buddy cop, movies? I don't know when they stopped killing people, but they certainly didn't give a shit in the 70s.
No, they didn't. I mean, well, they didn't up until the late 80s when Mel Gibson was running around killing people in Lethal Weapon. I mean, there was the higher the body count, the better in those
You're
things.
just laughing through it.
No, I know.
Weird.
I know.
And also, I noticed in Magnolia that, like, the one thing that stands out in my mind is you zoomed in on a Freemason's ring.
Yeah.
Like, and I'm like, that's it, it's there.
Yeah.
Why'd he do that? Now I'm all fucked up.
Yeah.
Ricky Jay had a Freemason's ring.
That's absolutely right. And he says, we met upon the level, but we're parting on the square. Which is
you were in such deep grief, but obviously you were going into very dark places.
Well, that, blame Michael Penn for that. He's the one who got me on all that stuff.
Oh, really? I lent him a couple of my Freemason books. So really?
He's way in deep with all that stuff, and he's obsessed.
Yeah, still?
I don't know, but I can't imagine that it was an obsession or an addiction that went away. I think it was not just the passing fancy.
Punch Drunk Love. What was that movie about?
Love, baby. Love.
Yeah.
That was a love story, yeah.
But, like, for me, like, that movie, that was one of those ones where I walked out and I'm like, what the fuck is that? What is he doing? So...
Uh-huh. Yeah, I could see that reaction for sure.
After Magnolia, I'm like, what happened? Go from Robert Altman to Truffaut? What is that movie?
That's just a movie about falling in love. I mean, that was just a way, honestly, I remember that movie being like, we'd made 2 movies in a row and we'd gotten pretty good at it and felt like we had the job and just wanted to dismantle how you had worked before. And I didn't know what that meant. And
dismantle who had worked before?
All of us on the crew. And
Sandler?
Maybe Sandler was part of that,
Why
too.
Sandler?
Oh, well, I love him.
Yeah?
I love him.
Yeah.
I loved the movies that he was making at that time. And
like Happy Madison?
Happy Gilmore. Billy Madison. And Big Daddy.
Those are the big 3?
Those are my big 3, yeah.
So what was your idea for him?
Just to work with him, period.
Yeah.
But Adam would always do something in movies that I basically just stole, where that when he would flip out, it appeared to me to be a guy who was really flipping out and who, wasn't faking it.
Right.
And that there was a darkness and it was so exciting when he would flip out.
Yeah.
That when he really did go there, you couldn't see the whites of his eyes anymore. And that was exciting. And you've got to know, coming from that world of comedians, that they are the darkest of the dark.
There's some anger there.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
And I just love that. And Adam makes me laugh. And he kind of can move and physically, he kind of waddle around and stuff.
Yeah.
I just love him.
So you wanted to place that tone or that energy into a real framework.
Yeah.
In a way.
Yeah.
And let him be the comedic character he is, but to be treated as if he were a real person.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think I remember
like if somebody really yelled like that.
Right. Try to treat it in a real life situation. Like, what does it really feel like to have 7 sisters that are that domineering and that tough on you? But I remember I think Adam had the feeling, wait, am I supposed to change what I do because you make these kinds of movies and I make these kinds of movies? And it was the opposite. It wasn't like, it was, no, my movie's coming to you. It's not that you're coming to me. I mean, that was like clear. It's not like I want to get into this with you so that we can really, find the darker part. It wasn't any horse shit like that.
Well, it's so funny because people's idea of you precedes you. It's sort of like, oh man, this guy's like deep and fucking, he's a big thinker. Makes these movies. What am I going to do? What does he want from me? Why me?
Yeah. Well, Adam saw Magnolia and he's like, do you want me to do that? No, man, I don't want you to do that.
He said that?
Yes, he did. He said, because I can't do that. I don't do
If nothing specific, just the entire movie?
Exactly
Do you
right.
want me to do that?
Exactly.
It's fucking hilarious. What movies informed that movie for you? What were you trying to do there?
Those Fred Astaire, Ginger Rogers movies.
Really?
Yeah, because they were a guy and a girl. They were musical, and they were 90 minutes. The girl always had a nice flowing dress on, and I was just obsessed with those at the time. And coming out of Magnolia, man, I swear it was all like getting through Magnolia. All that I could do to keep my head above water was to watch Adams movies, was to watch.
Musicals?
Those musicals.
That's what they were invented for. It was for the country to get out of depression.
They fucking work. I mean, they still, and they've got a long shelf life. I mean, you feel bad about yourself, throw one of those on,
Really?
Absolutely. It's a happy pill. For me.
Just watch Fred Astaire dance? Fred and Ginger?
If that doesn't make you happy, you better see your doctor.
Something wrong with you.
Yeah.
But you do seek that out in film? That's your medicine?
Absolutely. I mean, look, if I've got a row of movies at home and you sit down on the couch to watch something and there's the dark, long, intelligent movies over here and then there's the lighter ones over here, my hand is always going to go over here and put those on.
Yeah.
For sure. And that's the stuff I listen to.
Now when did you first, I'm trying to figure it out. Oh, yeah. So you work with Philip Seymour Hoffman in all three of those first movies.
Yeah.
All the way through.
We did 5 movies, I think.
So you guys came up together, really. Where did you first meet him?
Yeah, but he'd started before me. He'd been around. By starting out, we all kind of started out together. It was Riley or Phil, but they had a little bit more of a resume underneath them.
Right.
Which was really helpful. Even if they made 4 or 5 films, that was more than I'd done.
Right.
So when we were starting out, they had my back, and they were really helpful just in... from that's where craft service is to, the simplest things through just having a few movies under your belt makes a big difference.
Sure.
But, Phil was like, he maybe had a long list of kind of not so great movies, but he'd always be the best thing in it,
So you just liked him?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Early on, obviously, as time went on, but as an actor, you thought when you cast him in Hard Eight and in Boogie Nights, you were like, this guy's it.
I thought that when I saw him for the first time in Scent of a Woman, that I just knew what true love was. I knew what love at first sight was. And it was the strangest feeling sitting in a movie theater thinking, he's for me and I'm for him. And that was it.
Really?
Yeah. Strange. But believe me, when I was a kid, you sort of draw out, yourself, like movie cameras and sets, just like 8 or 9 years old, and nowhere in it did I draw anything that looked like him. I always thought I'd have Cary Grant would be in my movie, Harrison Ford.
Right.
But something happened when I saw him.
Really?
Yeah.
That's beautiful. How important is the actor to you?
That's number one, and everything else underneath.
Not everybody thinks like that, I don't think.
I would be curious to hear what other people's number one is. I mean, not that we're making lists and stuff, but what else do you look at when you look at a movie?
Yeah.
I don't really want to look at anything else but what
I think it's interesting as movie making becomes more sort of high tech and distant, and that the actual physical, organic idea of the actor or of the body becomes less and less important.
You're onto something there, and look. I'm not saying that it can't be a pain in the ass to try to figure out things with an actor. I mean, it can be.
But that's part of the struggle. That's what makes a film organic.
Yeah. And I could see people not having patience for that, but I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. I love working on it with them. And
well, I'm sorry for your loss, certainly, with Phil. It was horrible. So let's go to There Will Be Blood.
Let's go to the callers.
Yeah. First caller. Man, I thought Boogie Nights was great, man. His dick was big. All right, next caller.
Right.
Hey, when you were doing Boogie Nights, did you fuck that guy? All right, next caller.
It's got to be like Russian roulette going to those calls, right?
I haven't done that in a long time. All right, so There Will Be Blood comes out right alongside of No Country for Old Men.
Yeah.
These are the two big dick movies.
Yeah.
These were like man movies.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Both big,
big cocks. Those two movies. Whose cock's bigger in this Western game? This is showdown.
I think theirs were bigger. I think it ended up being that way.
What, with the Oscar?
At the old Oscar
Were you
show.
bitter?
No, I mean, it's a fucking difficult
Did you get any?
to sit there. I did not personally get
the
any.
movie.
Daniel Day got one.
Oh, yeah, he got the one.
And Robert Elswit, the cinematographer, got one. But
Good.
I tell you, man, it is hard to keep a fucking phony smile on for 3 hours when they get that camera on you, and you gotta go like...
I don't know. Like, I used to just tune in to see how actors handle the disappointment.
Right.
Like, where they're just zooming in on, like, who gets it and who doesn't. And then you see, like, they read the name,
I mean, it's... A fake smile is a tough thing to do.
Did you know you were going down?
Yeah.
You did?
Yeah. I mean... Yeah, the writing was on the wall that we weren't going to be up there on the
I
big
watched
one.
both of those movies several times. There's no reason to compare the two movies.
It's fucking nuts. It's ridiculous. I mean, it's
most of the time there's no reason to compare anything. It's just what the culture does.
it's a drag when it gets turned into sport.
All right, so again, let's do this again. What was that movie about?
No Country for Old Men?
I know what that was about. What was your movie about?
Man, that's about oil. That's about black gold, Texas tea. That's probably, again, that family. Can I say that again? I mean,
what about Power?
Power. It's about California.
Yeah.
I suppose. I mean, you hopefully start small, and then if it gets bigger from there, it's... I look at that, I just think about that movie, and I think about Daniel and his boy. That's what I think about most.
That relationship.
Yeah.
What would you call that relationship?
Complicated.
Yeah, it's definitely complicated. It's not his boy.
It's not his boy.
It does feel like there's a component of mutual beneficial
Sure.
behavior or what have you.
But, I also think it's a generational thing, too. It's like, it's not a story I made up. Guys that, born of that era, silver miners or some kind of miners, coming west, working in those conditions, steeling themselves up to the environment and what's going on, and really creating families and having no room for those families. I mean, at all.
But also creating this weird empire. Like the fact that, didn't that movie open in the hole?
Yeah.
Like, to me, that was genius. This is just a dude in a hole with some tools.
Yeah. And ambition.
Right. Mm-hmm. Was that the image that started the movie for you?
Yeah. Because I'd read stories of these guys that were silver prospectors, and it was that simple. And I kept having to read multiple books just to find out, is this simple that you take a pickaxe down into these holes and you chip away, and then maybe when you find something, you stick dynamite in there and you try to blow it up so you can get even further into
There's the blowing up again. There's your dad again. Blowing shit up.
Well, you got to have production value when you make a movie.
Sure.
We usually don't,
So the answer is yes. You go chip away.
You chip away.
And then you blow some shit up. There's more of it in there.
Exactly. It's that bonkers, And then, you wonder why this guy's not the best dad in the world. I don't know.
But also just the politics of power and the idea of amassing power and then the idea of amassing wealth. Whatever happened in that hole, in that moment, that guy, whatever his ambition was, became very calculating and very, empire-minded fairly quickly, it seemed.
Yeah. I mean...
As it happened naturally.
Well...
And then the sort of...
What's the difference between, survival and ambition? It wasn't just him trying to survive, obviously. He was obviously this guy, those kinds of guys, that they were born with something above and beyond what most people have, which is just, how do I survive and how do I make something for myself and something for my family? And when it sort of blossoms into something much more intense.
Well, yeah, you feel like there was never enough. There was never going to be enough.
I don't know many billionaires, but I kind of guess that $1 billion's not enough for them, probably.
Well, that was interesting, like the sort of the agreement between the godless and the faithful, or the
two
leader
of
of the faith.
Yeah, Paul Dano.
Paul Dano.
Yeah.
the agreement, like it was some struck bargain.
Mm-hmm.
But there's this idea where it's sort of like, I know what you're up to, and you know what I'm up to.
Yeah. Well,
I'm the preacher. You're the dude with the money.
Mm-hmm.
I got your people. I'm the one talking to your employees.
Mm-hmm.
So we have to have an understanding.
Yeah, anytime you can kind of narrow it down to something akin to Tom and Jerry or any kind of that kind of spy versus spy thing, that's always when it seems to be good. When that movie, I like that movie when it's firing that way. You know, when it's really just these two knuckleheads hammering out agreements amongst each other. It's great.
You see it as a comedy.
You know, funny enough, I wouldn't say with a capital K. But I do think it's a funny movie.
I
makes
thought,
me laugh.
Yeah, and well, there's definitely some funny moments in it. But I thought that the story of the false brother, that because like you're dealing with the birth of American industry on some level.
Mm-hmm.
That part of the American industry,
mm-hmm.
and the hustle is part of that.
Mm-hmm.
So the con man is part of that.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, you're dealing with the con man and the preacher, you're dealing with the con man and the brother,
mm-hmm.
and the only guy that's a straight shooter is the guy that's going to own the world.
Mm-hmm.
And he understands the need for these two or what's making them tick,
mm-hmm.
but one of them's got to die, and the other one's necessary.
Mm-hmm.
So, American, that's all of it. That's politics, that's everything.
Mm-hmm.
And then, like, you shot big, man. I mean, that must have been on your mind. How do you fucking make a frame big enough to capture that land? And the thing that I thought was genius that you did was there were these shots where you just saw two guys over there, and then there's a dude just kind of over there, and then maybe another guy right there, with nothing else.
Well, you know, take a camera out into the West Texas desert. I mean, you're from New Mexico. You know, you get out there, you look like you're making an epic, and you look like you know what you're doing if you just have a camera in the right spot. Because it just looks gigantic.
Yeah.
So,
and if you just place people in the right spot, there's your perspective.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
I loved it. All right, The Master. I go to the movie theater, I watch it, I'm like, God damn it! He did it again, I gotta go see it again! So then I go see it like 3 more times. And what I said publicly on this show is I think it would have been a better movie if they just fucked. I just think...
You know, that is a good criticism, I have to say. It's true. You know, but you're onto something. You're not wrong. You know, you're not wrong. And that's probably why it's a bit irritating, is because you just want them to fucking start making out and get together. Yeah, I'm well aware. I think that probably would have made it.
What was that relationship inspired by? I mean, what was that movie? What's that movie about to you? Is that a romance?
Yeah, it is. You know, but a romance that can't work. Just looking in somebody's eyes and thinking, I know we're meant to be, but we can't be. You know, and that, quite simply just that.
Because there's a couple moments in that movie that I thought was amazing, that, you know, even just reflecting on the idea of Scientology and, you know, knowing fairly quickly that movie was not about Scientology.
Right, yeah.
Whether, you know, how much it was based on him or not, it was obviously based on Hubbard to some degree, but it was very quickly not about that. But the intimacy of the cultural landscape in that movie, in terms of, like, people being vulnerable to that.
Yeah.
And the way there was an innocence to how these meetings transpired.
Yeah, good. If it feels innocent, that's good, because, I mean, you got all these people running around. I mean, you're flashing me back, you know, this kind of, all these new ideas. I mean, nothing's that weird. You know, nothing's that weird. I mean, there's death and destruction right behind you from that war. I mean, everybody's looking around like, give me anything. Yoga, diet,
sure,
past lives, I'll take it.
Sure.
You know,
we've just been annihilated.
Help me out.
We won, but we...
Right.
Yeah.
You know.
It's ugly time.
Yeah, nasty. But, you know, I mean, look, I guess that's still happening today. I mean, look, you know.
Well, that's not different than the 70s,
right,
in a way. I mean, it's not different if you're looking at it like that than Inherent Vice culturally.
Mm-hmm.
But I thought there was some amazing stuff in, you know, what they got from each other. Because, you know, when you deal with these relationships where you have the guy that's all heart and all crazy and can't manage his shit,
mm-hmm,
you know, and, you know, they're not destined to be the leader of anything.
mm-hmm,
But leaders feed on them.
mm-hmm,
Leaders take from them. Leaders use them, you know, as their heart, you know, but the fragile one is always going to blow up.
Yeah, yeah.
And that dynamic is, I think, historical. But there was a moment, though, that I thought was maybe if you can recollect it for me, because I can't quite put my finger on it. There was a moment where Laura Dern asks him why he changed something in the book.
Right. Yeah. He changes. He changes the phrasing from "Can you recall" to "Can you imagine?"
See, that scene for me is the key to the whole fucking movie.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because that opens it up from it's no longer a self-help situation.
Right, exactly.
It's a religion.
Right. And he knew that. I mean, that's
right.
Pretty accurately, that's taken from Hubbard's life. So that interchange, where a woman named Helen O'Brien had really sort of, she recognized that moment instantly and just said, this is going down a bad path, and it's going to change.
I thought that was the most important moment in the movie.
Yeah, it's good.
Was it to you?
No, I don't think of that. When I think back of the most important moment of the movie, I think of the two of them sitting across the desk from each other.
On the boat?
No, at the end.
Oh, right.
At the end.
When he sings to him?
When he sings to him. When he sings, just...
That's where he just wanted to kiss. Just kiss. Why can't you guys just...
I know. And
why'd you get so hung up with all that weird concocting of weird alcohol?
What, the booze?
Yeah.
The poison?
Yeah.
Too many shots of the poison?
No, I liked it. I don't have any problem with the length.
I like. I loved that idea of somebody making booze out of paint thinner and all this stuff. Basically just left over from those guys in the war that were, getting into bombs and stuff like that. And that once you had a taste for that, paint thinner, a rubbing alcohol was what you needed. It was like a beer. Fucking.
What do you think that guy meant to that guy? What do you think that guy meant to Philip Seymour Hoffman's character? Because, there was this whole idea that there was this weird tension and this love, and then he had Amy Adams, like, pulling out his cock strings, really kind of making him the man that he is on some level.
I think,
slapping him around.
You can see it in Phil's eyes that he's looking at, I want to be like you. I want to run wild like you. That's what I want. Get me out of here.
Right.
Yeah.
And because he can't, that's why.
But he's also, because he can't, he's also, I don't know, it becomes complicated. He's setting traps for him, but he's not really, it gets dark, it gets dense.
You're talking about it like you had nothing to do with it.
Yeah, I mean, you know what? I'm talking about it like it's a distant memory, I think, to me now. Not distant, but I'm trying to recollect it in my mind. I mean, I haven't seen it in a while, and it's not been at the forefront.
Have you rethought it at all?
No.
Happy with it?
Oh, yeah.
It's great. Looks good.
Yeah, it looks good.
Big camera.
Yeah. Fucking as big as this room.
You're shooting on a big camera.
Yeah.
Paid off, right?
Makes you feel like a big man when you get a big camera.
Sure.
It does pay off.
Did you use it on There Will Be Blood as well?
No.
That was the first time that 70 millimeter.
We were doing tests and we were messing around and we couldn't get. I just had something in my mind about how it would look, and Panavision. They said, "What about dusting these off?" I said, "Let's do it."
Who said that? A camera guy?
Yeah. And meanwhile,
I want to work again.
Producers all around me dropping to the floor, going, "No, put that thing away."
Weren't those destroyed? No,
exactly
these
right.
Are gross licorices. You don't want one.
Oh, those aren't your.
No. That's the replacement. That apparently here I order.
Oh, you're off. You're off.
Yeah, I'm off. Yeah. I order these weird licorices from Italy, and then I read the black licorice, like there's a side effect, could create hypertension and high blood pressure. The one thing I don't have.
With black licorice?
Yeah, it's weird. Like there's a warning on it. Whatever. All right, so I think you did a great job with this Pynchon thing.
Thank you.
Were you in touch with him?
Who?
Just be honest.
I can't be honest. I'm not going to be honest. I'm not. No, I don't. I'm going to just say no. No.
Why?
Somebody spent a long time, saying, keep me out of it, so I'm keeping out of it. I mean, really, just out of pure respect and everything. It just doesn't matter. I'm not going to,
Well, that's fine.
You fuck. Come on.
No, but I mean, he gave you his blessing.
He gave me his blessing to make the film. Yeah.
And you wrote the script entirely on your own. Yeah. From the book.
Yeah.
He didn't have a draft.
No, God, no. I mean, no. If you've read the book, I mean, if you can't, there's so much material in there. Yeah. It's like, if you can't figure it out with what you've got in this book, then you're an idiot.
But no one has really done it with his books.
Right. what I meant to say by that was that there's so much material that it doesn't, that it's, if you dig it out, it's there.
But you tried to cut a broad path here with that. Like, I mean, you tried to get as much in as possible.
For sure. Yeah. I mean,
because that's honoring.
Yeah. I mean, my sister usually reads things after I write them.
Uh-huh. And
I had a draft that was about 3, 4, or 5 inches thick.
Yeah. And
I gave it to her, and she handed it right back. And she said, I'm not reading this. Cut this thing down. Come back to me when you cut it down. That's good advice. Let me go back to the drawing board.
Well, what's this movie about?
It's about Pynchon. It's about...
That's interesting. It is about him.
Yeah. I mean, that's the first thing that pops into my mind. And then followed really quick right behind that, it's about the ex-old lady that you may have, or I may have, or we all may have, who does it for you, who still kind of has you wrapped around her finger, that thing, that you can never shake.
It certainly lands there at the end after quite a journey.
Mm-hmm.
But in that process, though, what I started to realize, like, there's something not stuck in my craw about it, because I took to that movie quickly, and I liked it.
Yeah.
Because I like the language of it. I like the era of it. I like that, you're dealing with a guy that knows that terrain, that invented that type of writing.
Yeah.
And that, has the sort of gravitas as a voice to play with those levels of politics and culture,
mm-hmm.
and deal with the stuff like the politics of heroin,
mm-hmm.
the politics of late 60s subversion, the politics of the provocateur, the guy who gets, has to sell himself out to get off to kick a habit. Like, I liked all that language. I like the way heroin was talked about.
Mm-hmm.
I like the sort of weird transition from that time when the hippies took over the culture and the resistance of the old guard to sort of get online, all coming through that one character that Josh Brolin plays.
Mm-hmm.
And he's, clearly a comedic character
mm-hmm.
that is crazy
mm-hmm.
and doesn't even understand why he's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
And like the thing I liked about this movie is that it weaves in and out of hallucinatory feeling that, like, what is real, what isn't real, and doesn't matter ultimately.
Yeah.
Did you feel that?
Yeah, I did. I mean, I felt that way when I read the book, for sure, and then tried to do that in the movie.
So I got that.
For sure. Yeah, in that fog of, I mean, I'm not a stoner. I don't really get stoned, but that kind of thinking that you can do in that state, where you do feel like your mind opens up and you're actually seeing things a little bit clearer, but that right around the corner you are in a full-blown paranoid flip out.
Right. Well, that was that time.
And that time, and...
That was Nixon.
Yeah. I mean, I wasn't around, so I'm just kind of basing it on the book.
But you felt that from the book.
And I feel it from people that were there. And that thing... It's funny, because there's a little bit of this when you're talking to Chrissy Hine, too, and you mentioned this, that kind of, again, any shift is always good. From smoking dope to suddenly you look around, there's heroin on the streets. It's like, man, this is not going to end good. This is not going to end well, And that, again, a loss of a certain type of innocence, that just seems to be good fertile ground for a story. And that seemed to be his preoccupation, like when everything just sort of starts to get dark. When it was going along so well. And the thing about the book that I look about like so much, I hope we got a little bit in there, is just how painful that still is, obviously, to him as a writer, I mean, he'd be 70-something years old and look back and write, he could write about anything, but he's still looking back, it slipped away.
Yeah, they took something from us.
Yeah.
Some got taken.
Yeah. It doesn't feel good still.
And then we get like one of the greatest cameos in the world from Martin Short.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
It reminded me of this frenetic. There's a frenetic type of satire that like you don't see it very often. You remember that movie? Did you ever see that movie Walker?
Yes.
Okay.
Walker's a great film
by Alex Cox.
By Alex Cox, I sure do. Yeah.
There was elements of that type of like brutal satiric characters.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's, man, you're talking my language. That's stuff I love when things get like that. And
do you remember the Rodney Dangerfield sequence in Natural Born Killers?
Yeah, sure.
That's
That's great. You know, look, that's like that sequence lends itself to being able to do something like that. Having Martin Short, being able to have Martin Short and say, he's got a scene where his secretary comes to get him and says, "Come on, there's a problem with the couch in your office." And to be able to say to Martin Short, what if you just drop your drawers on the way out, and getting to that level of vaudeville,
right,
and still kind of hopefully stay within reason. I mean, that's just like food and drink to me.
It's great because you were able to do it with Josh Brolin too, whose character definitely tipped. You're like, what?
Right.
With the you held a long time on that banana, bro.
Most of the times you spend as a movie director saying smaller, and this book and this movie lent itself to saying bigger, which is a really exciting place to be.
I think you really nailed it, and I don't think it was an easy thing because you're dealing with these layers of consciousness. You're dealing with going in and out of reality, not reality. Arguably, the entire film is outside of the bookends, could be just not real.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't matter,
mm-hmm.
but you're playing with like that whole Pynchon world of who's on whose side, who's in charge, what's the power structure, who's got the secret keys,
mm-hmm.
who knows what about who, and you go through all these doors, and when you finally see the one dude that is supposed to, be the thing we're looking for, you don't even give a shit.
That's right. Where you gotta get on. You gotta stumping for this film. You talk about it better than I do. And that's Pynchon, man. I mean, this is what I definitely feel good here because I didn't come up with this stuff. I just ushered it into the movie.
You honored it.
Yeah.
And I because when you do, I don't think that people have seen movies like that. It's almost like David O. Russell's I Heart Huckabees.
Yeah.
That when you have elements of farce or burlesque or vaudeville I'm not even going to go surrealism because it's not that. It's not Catch-22,
no.
But there are elements of that in it because he comes from a similar sensibility and a similar time as Heller.
Yeah.
But there is this idea where you have to suspend not so much disbelief, but you realize there's enough reality there.
Well, I think that's the trick is that you never feel like this is just some insane product of his imagination.
Right.
You always feel that something is plausible and rooted in reality. And I think if you look at this movie, this book, it's not anything that he's made up. He's obviously riffing on something that is down as fact.
Well, I think that's exactly what you're talking about with Pynchon and with these guys that live through that.
Mm-hmm.
Is the thing that sticks in their craw. Is that, this stuff, no one ever found out about it.
Right.
It just went away. And I think one of the things you're up against also is Pynchon's relevance, culturally now.
Mm-hmm.
Is like you're reintroducing or introducing for the first time,
mm-hmm.
One of the great literary geniuses who, young people today, unless they're really sort of like locked in or tapped in and they want to know about this stuff,
right.
They're like, what? And, if you come to this movie without any real awareness of the backstory of Pynchon or the beauty of the transition from the 60s to the 70s, and you're just looking at it as some camp, fashion show.
Right, right.
You got to be invested in this.
Absolutely. The funny thing is, I mean, I've only read his new book once, and I need to get to it again. But it's about computers. It's about the internet. It's called Bleeding Edge. I don't know if you've read it yet, but
I haven't read a lot of his books.
But in
Crying All Out 49 was enough for me.
But the point is that with all these email hackings and all this stuff that's going on and everything, and here he was a couple years ago. He knows things that we don't know. I'm convinced of it. I mean, I really am at this point.
Pynchon does.
Yeah. I'm just convinced.
Well, good. Then he's got you.
He does. I'm hooked.
Now, yeah, you're going to have to... Now you got to figure out... Yeah, well, that's not so much a cult. It's like, it's sort of like, what if there is no there, and, and all his... his characters and this whole thing, what you said earlier is like, there's a guy.
Mm-hmm.
There's a guy.
Yeah.
You got some great performances out of a lot of great actors. I'll tell you that.
Thanks.
Yeah, Benicio. I hadn't seen Benicio del Toro in a long time.
Man, the movie screens and the world need more Benicio del Toro up there.
Why don't we see him more?
He's got another movie coming out. You know what? Being an actor is tough business, and you can have success, and you can be one of the best, but you would be shocked to think, it's a struggle to find good parts, to find good people to work with.
You got Joanna Newsom doing something new?
Yeah, she's great.
She was great. And who was the woman that played the ex-old lady?
Catherine Waterston.
Oh, I don't know her. I hadn't seen her before. I like her.
She's sort of new to movies. She's done a few smaller parts here and there, but she does New York theater stuff. But she's pretty new to the big screen.
Yeah, you got a lot of. There was a lot of great interactions there. I liked his weird kind of like half silent sidekick too.
Oh, Dinas. Yeah, he's great. This is his first movie.
Oh, and Reese Witherspoon, I fucking love her.
Me too. Get in line. Get in line.
I know, but it's weird because I feel like some people don't really love her, and they should love her. Everybody should love her.
Yeah, those are the kind. Then that's thumbs down for me. If you don't love Reese Witherspoon,
yeah, what kind of fucking animal are you?
You've got a problem.
She's great.
Yeah, no, she's dynamite. She's the business, Reese Witherspoon.
Yeah,
always has been to me. Yeah. I love her. Yeah.
This is the first time you work with her?
Yeah. There was a second she was gonna try to be Phil's wife in The Master, but that didn't work out because of timing and everything else. So
you got to work. Did you get along with her? Amy's great, yeah.
I loved Reese and I loved Amy. I love all these dames. I mean, working with these girls, man, there's a good group of girls.
Yeah.
On this movie.
Yeah.
Jenna Malone.
Yeah.
Dynamite, and this and Hong Chow is great.
She's great.
Actress, yeah.
Yeah.
It's a long list, and they're all just been dynamite to work with.
And Joaquin is just great. It's great. Sometimes it's sort of like, oh no, he's talking like Joaquin, and there's a lot of information we need. So he's going to have to get that out of his mouth. I'm going to have to rewind this when I get it on DVD.
He is a mumbler.
Yeah.
For sure. He does a really wonderful thing. He's got this big scene with Martin Donovan where they're sitting across the table and they're making the transaction about getting Coy Harlan away from his family. And he enunciates every last word. And I just remember thinking, well, he can do it if he wants to. He just chooses not to, I guess.
He likes to mumble.
He is a fucking mumbler, for sure.
Josh Brolin, though, is great.
Josh Brolin is like a part of a dying breed. He just is a man. He looks like a man, and he acts like a man, and he's a great actor, and he's funny. And he's
so funny.
He's very fun to work with as well. I can't say enough about Josh Brolin. He's great. I mean, there was a time when I remember feeling like, where are the men in movies?
Yeah.
And there's Josh Brolin working steady and getting good jobs.
Astounding.
Yeah.
And like in the real deal too, like not just like a good looking dude, but like got real chops and real range.
Yes,
like just fucking awesome.
Yeah, like you could pluck him out of it. You could put him in a '40s movie, you could put him in a '50s movie. He's like kind of there's something timeless.
Yeah, Owen Wilson was great. Hadn't seen him in a while.
Yeah, Owen Wilson, man, I love Owen Wilson.
And like that story becomes the story. And I don't want to spoil anything. Like it's possible to spoil it.
I don't think you can.
This movie is an annihilation of stories because there's 1,000 stories in the movie. I mean, that's what Pynchon's all about. Every sentence is a portal.
And that's the fun of it, man. I mean, I know that it can be maddening, I think, for people, but boy.
I didn't experience it. I've talked to other people that were sort of like had like a rough time with it.
Right.
Because like it requires an attention. And like even his books, you have to sort of like, sometimes you gotta go back a few pages. Oh shit, this is all right, that's the boat from, okay. All right, and that guy's, okay.
Right, yeah.
And it's harder to do with a movie.
Yes.
Because it happens very quickly.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and when you're with a book, you're kind of you alone in your room, and it's intimate, and it's right there, and movies are big and watch.
Just tell me one thing.
Uh-huh.
What did Pynchon think of it?
I'm still waiting for that phone call, man. I don't know. I mean, shit.
You are becoming a Pynchon character. That's what you're doing right now.
Uh-huh.
You know.
No, I don't. Oh, fuck it. I'm not gonna get you fucking.
What? Not gonna hurt the guy's myth. I'm not even pressing you for like secret information. I just want to know how he felt about it.
I can only imagine that he's happy, I mean, think we did a good job. I mean, look, fuck. I don't know.
Look, fuck. I don't know. Look at you wrestling with yourself. What are you protecting?
Oh, you got me all. Now you got me all bashful and stuff, like red in the face.
Did you guys have some sort of weird secret agreement?
Yeah. Yeah. We did. And I'm trying to fucking protect you, man.
Protect me?
Yes. Do you know what could happen to you if I let you in on this? You'd be fucking... you don't want this information.
Oh, okay, man. Thanks, buddy.
You got just...
I appreciate that, man.
Beware the golden fang. No, yeah, fuck.
What do you want to say?
Nothing. I don't want to say anything.
Oh, really?
What do you have? What are these?
It's a guy from Walking Dead. He sent me those.
That's cool.
So you're not talking pension to protect me. That's fine. I appreciate that.
Do you know the story that when they said the Unabomber? Remember the Unabomber, Ted Kaczynski?
Yeah.
And they had and then for a while there was a serious thought that Thomas Pynchon was the Unabomber,
right?
Ted Kaczynski.
Yeah.
He said, "Nice guess, keep trying." That's pretty good. I mean,
well, I think you did him. A solid. I think you. I mean, you work fucking hard, dude. I mean, you make big movies. Do you like when you're on set? Are you losing your fucking mind, or are you just cool as a cucumber?
A little bit of both. I mean, it depends, I mean...
How do you keep the vision so tight? How do you keep the tone of these... They're so different, all these films. Like, do you use different cinematographers? Do you have...
Same cinematographer. You know what you do? You cut out all the bad shit.
But I mean, but literally the way the fucking movies look. Like, they were shot differently. I mean, you're full of, close-ups and it feels almost handheld in this movie, and it feels a little grainier than other movies.
Definitely.
So you made those choices.
Well, you get into it, and you got a couple ideas in your head about how it might look, and you know what certain film stocks do, and you know what certain lenses do. So you start testing stuff and shooting stuff. I mean, we started shooting stuff with Joaquin at my house about 3 or 4 years ago. He had a beard, and he shaved it into that thing, and he came over one afternoon, and I shot some stuff. And I shot some stuff with some old film that I had in my garage like this, that was, out in the heat. And I used that old film, and when we looked at it back, it looked kind of like the movie you see, which is you stumble into maybe you got a few ideas, maybe you've seen a movie that looks like this, or a photograph, but really bridging that distance between a kind of half an idea and a real idea.
You shot that on film?
Yeah.
Oh, so that's why.
Well, that's one why, but, the other why was sort of getting this old film, and it kind of looks faded and it's broken, and you look at it up on the big screen at the lab, and you go, well, our job is to kind of start making stuff look like that.
How'd you do it?
You get old lenses, and you kind of expose it a certain way, you pick the right locations and costumes, and you mix everything up. And
time travel with the actual machines.
That's quite honestly, that's what you try and do. You try time travel. It's the closest you're going to get to time travel
But you got to use the old machines.
Yeah, it helps. Wow. It's a leg up for sure. Using old gear is definitely a leg up.
And you put your wife in there for a few scenes.
Yeah, she was lucky to get the job.
She's funny.
Made her audition.
Oh, good for you. You don't want to give anyone a break. But right at the get-go, we just have to suspend our disbelief that this is a PI that's got a doctor's office.
Yeah.
That's a pension thing. We were just supposed to take that as face value?
I think so.
You made the movie.
Yeah.
You're just sort of I'm just going to honor this.
He did a lot. He did a lot of explaining about that situation in the book. That basically, this guy, Dr. Buddy Tubeside, whose office it is one of those B12, like a Dr. Feelgood kind of guy.
Right, sure.
And so he's usually got a line of speed freaks waiting out front of his office every morning
to get right.
And then Doc has. I think in the book, Doc has done Buddy Tubeside a favor or two, and he said you can have a room in the back.
Oh, okay. But you didn't feel the need for that backstory.
We actually shot some of that stuff early on, and it was just too much shoe leather trying to explain all this stuff.
So you're just fuck it.
Fuck it.
The PI's in a doc. Well, I think because I think that introduces the idea of what is our reality, and You thought that too?
Yeah, I think it's exactly right. You just kind of gotta, and you gotta do that some of that stuff early, so it'll help. Either people go with it or they won't.
Yeah. And I loved it, man. And I think you do great work. And I've come around to all the movies. Some I liked right out of the gate. Some I had to fight with.
It sounds like Inherent Vice you liked right out of the gate.
Right out of the gate. And I liked Magnolia right out of the gate, but I thought that it could be a little shorter. Boogie Nights, actually, I grew to like more.
Right.
I liked it, when I saw it first, but that actually gets better over time.
Right.
For some reason, because it's I don't know why, and that's a good thing with the movies. The Master, I'm probably gonna have to watch once a year. Because clearly you don't understand your own movie. And I'm just going to have to lay it on my own interpretation. But I think that's true, though. I imagine a lot of that shit gets laid on you. Like, you're a fucking genius. What'd you mean by that? I don't know. It's not my responsibility, is it?
Right. Yeah, some of that, sometimes that, but that just means people are looking at it in a way that's intense. And I know that feeling. You look at films but, at least that's the fucking great things about movies. My favorite movie of all time is Treasure of Sierra Madre, which I must have seen 5 or 6 times and thought, okay.
Yeah.
And then whatever it was, when I came across it at just the right time, at just the right moment, and I went, holy shit, and my life opened up. I thought, this is the best movie I've ever seen. And that's when I was writing There'll Be Blood. I just watched it over and over and over again. So whatever, these things, these movies, they're like, I do consider them, they're movable feasts. In other words, you catch it on an airplane, catch it on your phone. Where are you going to see it? It's out there, and it exists, and it's going to be something different all the time. So.
But I think that's a movie that, not unlike Pynchon, or not unlike a great piece of literature, that as you evolve, or music, when you go back to it, it speaks to you differently.
Absolutely.
And
yeah.
And the Treasure of Sierra Madre, what was it about the repetition of that? What kept hammering at you?
I don't know. I mean, it wasn't as if I was watching it going, I don't get this. I'd seen it, and I kind of liked it, but it didn't.
The end, the shot of the bags?
The shot of the bags. It's great. Do
you like the end of The Killing?
I was just talking about the end of The Killing. That's one of the great endings.
Did you were just talking about that?
I was just talking about that scene yesterday.
To who?
To Riley. I was talking to
John C. Riley?
Yeah. I was working on this thing that he's working on, and I was talking with him about it, and we were just talking about endings, and that one came up. And
Sterling Hayden.
Oh my God! If I could go, if I really could build a time machine, I'd go back, and I'd work with Sterling Hayden. He'd be at the top of the list.
Great.
Are you a big fan?
Yeah.
Have you ever seen any of his great YouTube interviews, sort of late in life with?
When he's got the beard, when he's writing the books.
Yeah.
I don't think I have.
Okay.
Go see him.
If you want to stay up until 4:00 in the morning tonight, go check these out. I mean, they're great, amazing.
Well, he was sort of like tormented, right?
Very tormented
because of the McCarthy stuff.
That's exactly right. Yeah, and I keep them. There's this character Burke Stodger in that's referenced that I think I can only guess Pynchon might have had not that.
But I thought the Burke Stodger character was the opposite.
It was the opposite, but he was on a boat and he went out there.
Right.
I think he's adapted the Sterling Hayden thing a little bit. It's a very different story, yes, because Sterling Hayden was deeply troubled the rest of his life.
Because he named names.
He named names. And if getting into that whole naming name things, not that we're going to, I know we've run out of time, but man, there's a lot there. That's a great subject, and it gets a little bit short shrifted.
Did you see that Irwin Winkler movie?
I did.
What was that called again?
Guilty by Suspicion.
That's good.
There's a documentary that I've been trying. I can't find it. I thought it was called "Are You Now or Have You Ever Been?" And I can't seem to find it. But there's a couple good books written about it too, and just how the level of fear that was put into people and the kind of insane persecution where you kind of look back now and you go, really? Was it that bad? And to sort of investigate it a little bit is that I do think it was that bad.
Well, it sounds to me like you're percolating a fucking movie about the Blacklist.
No, I got into the Blacklist. I've always been into the Blacklist, but through Inherent Vice, there's so much about the Blacklist and that character. It was just another excuse to read more about it. I mean,
did that character appear in this movie?
Burke Stodger?
Yeah.
on screen, you see him at that Chris Skylodon Institute, the loony bin that they go up to, and they're showing the hippies a clip from a black and white movie.
Oh, the movie, right? And the guy's mouthing along with the,
exactly right. Yeah, that guy, that actor in that is meant to be Burke Stodger, but it's an actor named Jack Kelly.
But Burke Stodger was accused to be a communist.
Yeah,
and then he completely flipped, and he went completely pro-American.
Exactly. He splits down, and he comes back miraculously. The boat is renamed.
I forgot that part. That's the one. I gotta go see the movie again. All right, what's the next movie? What are we doing? What are you doing?
I don't know. I gotta figure that one out.
Well, you still got to run around with this one.
I got a couple more months of running around, or a month, another month.
Am I gonna get a screener?
You should. Do you want a Blu-ray?
Sure. Can you hook me up?
Yeah, I can.
All right, we'll do that.
I'm going to give you the movie.
Yeah.
You can have my movie.
Thanks, man.
It's funny, you get through all this, you work on these movies, and then you get down, you got a little DVD like this, and you go, here it is. Yeah. That's all it is. Like,
yeah.
Fuck it.
Go ahead, do what you want with this.
Exactly. That's it. Like, I went through all that, and I got a DVD.
All right, man.
Thank you very much.
Great talking to you.
Are you kidding? I love you.
Thanks for coming.
Yeah, of course.
Love you too. So there you have it. That was my conversation with Paul Thomas Anderson. What a great guy. I learned a lot. Fucking very accessible. He's a genius. And geniuses aren't supposed to be that affable. They're not supposed to be that, humble and nice. Conversational. You expect some difficulty with a genius. Not so with Mr. Anderson. Go see Inherent Vice. It's really spectacular. I found it very engaging. You're going to have to see it a few times. And don't forget this, folks. This Friday is the return of Real Time with Bill Maher on HBO. Bill and his rotating panel of guest stars are back for the 13th season of Real Time. This Friday, January 9th at 10 p.m., 9 p.m. Central, only on HBO. I remember I told you I named my guitar, and I've never named a guitar before, but I named my 335. That guitar.